Today we're on a road trip here in central Alabama, about 50 miles east of Birmingham. Right now we're not terribly far from the Talladega International Motor Speedway, but we're not here for NASCAR. We are here to visit one of the finest shooting facilities in the entire country, the CMP Marksmanship Park. While operating the Marksmanship Park is an exciting and new aspect of the CMP's mission, they're still the leading source for surplus M1 rifles, and they just accepted delivery of 86,000 M1s from the Philippines. That's why we're here in Alabama today. But before we get to that, we're going to do a little shooting. So buckle up, stay tuned, and get ready to spend a little quality time with the civilian marksmanship program.
Our mission is to teach marksmanship with an emphasis on youth, give everyone an opportunity to experience marksmanship in the proper, appropriate environment. The park here is a training tool to that end. It accomplishes our mission very well.
In addition to this spacious and comfortable clubhouse, the park also features a field for sporting clays, a field for trap, a 50-yard pistol range, a 100-yard rifle range, and then the flagship, a 54-position, 600-yard rifle range that's equipped with the Koenigsberg electronic scoring system.
It's a proud facility, and we want everyone who enjoys the CMP, enjoys marksmanship, to come out and get to use the facility, because the firearms they purchase from the CMP along the way help pay for the facility. Shortly after Korea, someone came up with the idea in the government to loan out surplus military weapons, small arms, from the United States Army to foreign governments to help them in the fight against communism. The military assistance program sprinkled out guns all over the world. The country that they're lent to has to offer those rifles up. The United States gets first right of refusal to receive them back because we lent them. If the United States Army turns them down, then the country can dispose of them. And the United States Army generally does not turn them down because we fund the return of those rifles. So the Army doesn't have to spend any money out of pocket for the return of those antique firearms.
During the era of the military assistance program, the U.S. government sent M1 rifles to several countries around the world as we tried to fight the Cold War. The two rifles here on the table are interesting examples of that. Take, for example, this one, Springfield 949720. It comes with two detainee cards that tell the story of how this rifle ended up coming back after spending time in the military assistance program. And the story that these two detainee cards tell is that on May 14th, 1970, soldiers from the 14th Infantry Regiment were sent to secure a UH-1 Huey crash site. The helicopter was from the 187th Assault Helicopter Company, and it crashed just over the border in Cambodia. So soldiers from 14th Infantry secured the crash site, and in so doing, they had a brief firefight with opposing forces. At the end of that brief firefight, those soldiers recovered 949720. Now, this rifle, this is an International Harvester M1, and we believe that this was a military assistance program rifle that was sent to the government of Iran before the Islamic Revolution in 1979. We believe that the rifle was probably used during the Iran-Iraq War, and at some point in there, the Iraqis turned this rifle over to the Taliban, and it ended up in Afghanistan. And we're pretty sure that it was an Iranian military assistance program rifle because of the fact that it was manufactured by International Harvester. Then, about 2 years ago, this rifle was recovered on the battlefield by U.S. fighting forces in Afghanistan. I call it the Sand Garand because it's still got dust from Afghanistan all over it. It has this interesting tape on the forward handguard, and you can see that some Taliban fighter took this piece of rope and fashioned it into a rifle sling. And these two rifles together, to me, they narrate a very interesting moment in the history of not just the Cold War, but specifically the Military Assistance Program. Neither of these rifles are for sale. They remain here on display. And I think that's probably the best possible home for these two fascinating examples of John Garand's masterpiece.
The Philippine guns were offered back by the Philippine government to the United States Army. The United States Army accepted them, and then that started the process of the return. Once that offer was made, the Army sent Defense Logistics Agency over to inventory the rifles in country. When DLA started to do the inventory of the rifles, they noticed the wooden stocks appeared to be termite infested. So that told DLA that, one, the boxes couldn't come back to the United States. Two, the rifles, the stocks on the rifles to come back in the United States were going to have to be treated. A little over $1 million to have that done. So that started the packing process. Then the DLA started packing the rifles. One of the warehouses that the rifles were stored in, DLA noticed that it had rained that day and noticed that there was a leak in the roof, and there appeared to be some sort of milky substance coming through the roof. And the rumor was that the roof had asbestos in it. Well, upon further review, the roof did have asbestos in it, and it was leaking down onto some of the guns. The asbestos runoff was, the water. And so once that was determined that that was happening, we had to hire experts in the field to go in and inspect the rifles and clean each rifle for asbestos residue. That endeavor cost about $1.5 million to have done. So they have a clean bill of health. They have no termites and no asbestos residue. And all of this was done in a very time-sensitive fashion. The rifles had to be shipped back on a U.S. flagship. They could not be shipped with any other product on that ship. We had to purchase the entire rental of the entire ship to get the rifles back. And we only had a 30-day window for the rifles to make it from dock onto the ship. So it was a very stressful time. The ship itself cost, the rental of the ship was $3.2 million. So the rifles made it onto the ship and made it across the ocean successfully and made it to port in California. And then they had to be shipped from the California docks to our facility in Anniston. And we took in 86,000 or so M1 Garands from the Philippines. Arduous task, though.
We're now in one of the CMP South warehouses, and the white boxes that you see behind me contain the 86,000 Philippine return M1 rifles. What's about to happen next is we're going to begin opening some of these boxes. We don't exactly know what to expect, so we're certainly in for some surprises. The Philippine returns are already providing pleasant surprises like this rifle. So, Steve, could you tell us a little bit about what makes this one exceptional?
Sure. This rifle came out of the first box we looked at upon immediate examination. It's got nice wood. It's got a beautiful finish on it. No rust. The first thing that was noticed when it came out of the box, the first box that was opened, was the small Cross Cannons ordnance wheel cartouche. Then we spotted the plugged holes, which indicated that at one time it was an M1C sniper rifle. If you turn it over and look at the receiver, the serial number range, that reflects that it fell within that range, so we know that for a fact. It's also marked SA-52, which indicates it went back to Springfield Armory. They took this sniper rifle, plugged up the holes, and turned it back into a regular service grade rifle, which went over to, when I say service grade, non-sniper, which went over to the Philippines, and they apparently took pretty darn good care of it.
We're off to a good start. A reclaimed M1C service rifle that the Filipinos took good care of. This is very promising. Not every rifle among the Philippine returns is going to be a winner. And this Winchester is a great example of that. In addition to being in rather poor condition, the rifle has this hand customized ventilated forward handguard. Somebody took the time of putting these holes in the handguard. For what reason, we don't really know. We think it might be a battlefield pickup from Philippine communist insurgents. And whoever it was that shot this last, things didn't go exactly the way that he wanted it to, because the muzzle is split. You can even see that the gas cylinder has been shoved back and stripped out of the threading around the muzzle. There's red paint on the rifle, around the buttstock, on the receiver, and even underneath. We're not sure what that means. And you can even see the remnants of a patrol sling right here on the buttstock. And for as ugly as it is, for as much of a misfit as this rifle is, it is nevertheless a fascinating chapter in the history of the M1 service rifle. Steve, would I be correct in the assumption that Harrington and Richardson produced M1 rifles when they were built, factory 100% original? Were they 100% Harrington and Richardson?
No, they actually were not. Early on, Harrington and Richardson had trouble with certain parts, and when I say they had trouble, they apparently had not started producing the hammer and the operating rod and the operating rod catch. They just didn't have those parts ready to go. So when you look at an early 4.66 serial numbered rifle and you see a Springfield Armory op rod or a Springfield Armory hammer or a part of another manufacturer in there, that's not indicative of a part being changed. It's generally the case that was the original part on the rifle because H&R didn't have those parts at that point.
Mass production is a difficult thing, and it's
Exactly.
a bumpy road when you get it started, I guess.
Exactly.
So countries that benefited from the military assistance program, like the Philippines, in a way, they became stewards for preserving the history and heritage of the M1 rifle.
There's no question about it. In these rifles that we've seen returned from various countries, some of these rifles have been in original condition, new condition. They were sent over new. In the case of the Philippine rifles, I've seen already quite a few rifles that went over there, probably weren't used. They have nice finish on them, nice wood. They're not brand new rifles. They were probably rebuilt, but they're in good condition.
And this is an exciting development because now the CMP has 86,000 of them that will, before too terribly long, become available for purchase through the rifle program.
That's right, and I'm sure they'll probably sell every one of them.
We've reached the end of our day here at CMP South, and we've handled hundreds of the Philippine return M1 rifles. Some great, some good, some not so good. But there's 86,000 of them, and before too terribly much longer, those rifles will be available for purchase through the CMP's rifle sales program. To learn more about the CMP, visit thecmp.org where you can read about products available, and you can also read about purchasing requirements. One of the requirements for purchasing a rifle from the CMP is membership in a CMP-affiliated organization. And one of those organizations is the Garand Collectors Association. To learn more about it, visit thegca.org, and if you join, you'll receive the Garand Collectors Association Journal, a fantastic repository of historical and technical information about the M1 service rifle. On behalf of the Garand Collectors Association, my name's Marty Morgan, and thank you very much for watching.